Hey, what's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sport fan? What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sport fan? What's up, NBA fans? What's up, all sports fans? Welcome to Behind the Bench Network, Behind the Bench Show. This is your host, JB, right here. And man, we well underway for the NBA playoffs, the 22-23 campaign. We're about a week into the playoffs. There's been some great matchups, particularly Golden State and Sacramento, the Warriors versus the Kings. The Kings haven't been to the playoffs since 2005, but they find themselves entering the playoffs as the third seed in the Western Conference. And they did it by building around youth, developing their young talent, drafting additional young talent, making key moves, key trades, and solid free agent acquisitions. Same thing applies to the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Both teams are on the up and up after years of struggle, but they building the right way. Same formula. Drafting young talent, developing their young talent, allowing their young talent to grow, making key trades, key acquisitions that won't deter from what they're trying to accomplish, and making solid free agent acquisitions along the way. And as a result, the Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers advanced to the playoffs as the fourth and fifth seed, respectively. And the Knicks were up 3-1 in that series, a game away from advancing to the conference semis for the first time since prime Carmelo Anthony years. And I believe that was back in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, 2012, 2013. But it's just a tribute of sticking to the plan and not listening to outside voices that want win-now scenarios. But this is another young team I want to talk about and discuss and highlight, and that's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, remember a couple years ago when Oklahoma City decided to move on from its top stars, such as Russell Westbrook, who had been a mainstay basically since he'd been drafted to Oklahoma City back in 2009 and became the exclusive franchise player after Kevin Durant left as a free agent and signed with Golden State back in 2016. And then after, acquiring stars such as Carmelo Anthony and Paul George and even a Victor Oladipo and the Chris Pauls of the world, they decided, man, I don't want to say clean house, but to officially start over fresh. And what did they do? They traded away those top stars, and in the process, they acquired a plethora of draft picks to build on in the future. Now remember, when they began this strategy, they was the butt of jokes. They was being mocked. They were being criticized. There was a lot of cynicism being directed their way. But you fast forward about 3 years and you start to see the plan work to perfection. And it's a tribute to a front office having the foresight to think long term instead of thinking short term. And that's what this current era of player empowerment, super teaming, stacking the deck has produced. Short-sightedness, where you feel you have to win right now. And what it does is it generates a sense of desperation and panic. And you start making moves that you normally wouldn't make. But when you allow yourself to think long-term and craft a sustainable, permanent vision that can stretch even beyond your expectations, it's a beautiful thing, especially in sports, where you have a rare opportunity to build something that can generate and flourish for up to a decade plus. So you look at this Oklahoma City team. Over the past couple of years, they drafted and developed some tremendous young talent, starting with Lugens Dort, who was with the team back in 2020, and then they traded the Paul George trade. They brought back young Sage Gilgeous-Alexander, who's now a young superstar in his own right, averaging with 30 points a game this season, and had a tremendous showing for himself. And he's continuing to get better and better as each year arises. They drafted young Josh Giddey out of Australia, tremendous young talent. And in his second year, he's grown exponentially since his rookie season. And then additional draftees, they have two players by the same name, Jalen Williams, but different spelling. But they contributed to this team's success this year. Kendrick Williams and Isaiah Joe, who was a three-point specialist. And what they did this year was tremendous, considering that they was without their number 2 pick draftee this season, Chet Holmgren from the University of Gonzaga, who suffered an injury during the offseason right after he was drafted. But he's expected to be clear with a full recovery and be ready for next year. And they advanced to the play-in this year when very few prognosticators predicted them to do so, with Chet Holmgren being out all year. And they found themselves one game from advancing to the playoffs. One game from advancing to the playoffs. And the front office for Oklahoma City, see, a lot of these teams that operate in small markets, they have developed a formula after analyzing the landscape over the past 10 years or so. And teams are understanding that it's not feasible no more to try to create super teams and eschew your young talent, trade them off, stack the deck to win now. Because what they're finding is, more often than not, you're going to fall short than achieve your goal of trying to win at an accelerated pace. And really what it comes down to is true team development will always be the more beneficial method of reaching your goals. Because when you sell yourself short and mortgage it all away, you wind up setting yourself back behind the pack, and you're playing catch up at that point. But you look at what Oklahoma City is doing. In the process of trading away their top star talent, the Paul Georges, the Chris Pauls, the Russell Westbrooks, they have acquired, and this runs through the remainder of the decade up until 2029, that could extend going into next decade of the 2030s. They have 33 draft picks as assets to build on, which includes 15 first-round picks. So they have put themselves in position to continue drafting young talent, which will allow them to manage their salary cap to where you don't have 3 players taking up the majority of your cap. And you can use those assets, which I'm sure they will, to trade for high-level veteran players or star players, or maybe even a superstar, to take your team to the next level, because free agency will not be the primary tool to achieve that goal. Because if we look at the past free agent pools of the past couple of years leading to this offseason, there's a lack of superstars that's going to be available anyway, because most of these young stars have signed 5-year extensions to remain with their current team, and more often than not, their current team who drafted them into the league. So now teams are understanding it's best to develop your own talent, generate your own stars through patience and truly backing your players, create an environment that produces stability and team chemistry, is really going back to basics. That's really what it's doing, but in a way that will apply to the current era of NBA basketball. So as OKC becomes one of those model franchises that operate out of small markets, they will lead the pack. And what I mean by lead, I'm not necessarily talking about winning multiple championships. I'm talking about where other franchises who have recently embraced that player empowerment driven mode where you're led to forego what you have been trying to build on and trade that off for a win now approach. They're going to try to replicate and duplicate what a lot of these small market teams are doing. So like I said, OKC, won't nobody be laughing at them for long, because really they achieved 500 status in a rebuild situation when they missing a number 2 pick player of last year's draft in Chet Holmgren. So imagine if he would have played this year, there's a good chance they would have went to the playoffs as a high level playing seed, or maybe, who knows, maybe they get in there as the 6th seed this year. So that's why I say, as a avid fan of the NBA, just watching these trends and watching how the landscape is evolving, a lot of these teams that's in win now mode. Now, mind you're going to always have veteran teams. You're going to always have veteran teams that are in a prime stage and they're like right there looking to win that title, and they may be a piece away or a move away from achieving that goal. But you have so many young teams on the rise, like the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Sacramento Kings, the New Orleans Pelicans. Houston Rockets are starting over. San Antonio is about to start their rebuild over after operating at a high level and achieving sustained success for over 20 years. Then you look at the Orlando Magic, which I'll be talking about also down the line. Orlando Magic, they drafted a player who more likely win Rookie of the Year this year in Pablo Pachero. So there's a lot of young teams on the rise where you can see that their front offices are going and choosing to develop their own players, because they understand that free agency is not going to be the tool like it once was to bring in superstars. So I just want to drop that nugget. And again, Oklahoma City Thunder, they have a tremendous future, and they can play. They can play. They beat quite a number of top teams or playoff level teams this year, and it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a fluke. So they're gonna be better next year. They're gonna draft more talent, and they can make a move down the road, bring in a star player or a high level player to help bolster that unit, and more than likely they'll be a playoff team next year. So something's got to give. You got the player empowerment driven impulse versus real team building, and from what I can tell, real team building is winning out, and the player empowerment driven impulse is running its course, which I believe is the best thing that's happened to the NBA in a very long time. And that way we can see real competition again. No strings attached, no angles. And the NBA can generate another golden era, which will be led by these teams that's truly building, and they doing it step by step by step without taking shortcuts. So I just want to drop that. Kudos to Oklahoma City Thunder, and it can only get better for them next year and well into the future, and they can have a run that can last, something like Golden State's for the next 10 years. So kudos. So I just want to drop that. Again, this is JB for Behind the Bench, and I will holler later.